Have you ever met one of those people who just can't be stopped? It's like they're unstoppable.
Yeah, I have.
Me too.
What's their mystique?
Nothing stops these people.
Don't stop.
Welcome to Mission Unstoppable with Coach Frankie Picasso. You're about to meet some of the most amazing people.
Stop. Don't stop.
They've accomplished their goals despite insurmountable odds. They beat adversity, physical hardship, and traumatic events, and emerged triumphantly. They're people just like you and me, and they're winners. Are you unstoppable? Here's Frankie to show you how.
I know you're unstoppable. Welcome to Mission Unstoppable Radio and TV. Today, we are going on a mission that is so near and dear to my heart. We're going to go to places far and wide, 195 countries, in fact, to spread seeds of positive impact. Our guide is a man who's traveling the globe and reconnecting and connecting those he meets, I should say, to the things that they forgot that they love, to the idea of impact for themselves, their neighbors, and the planet. He discusses important topics including human potential, creative thinking, sustainability, and relationship development. Yeah, and though the talks that he gives and the music and the videos he creates and the coaching he provides is all just amazing. In 2016, my guest Cameron Brown sold or donated 99% of the things that he used to own, and he embarked on one global quest, to show firsthand how we run our companies, the lives, and how we live our lives, and how actually we utilize our unique talents and strengths determines our future as a species and the well-being of our planet. That's big and heavy words, Cameron. Welcome to Mission Unstoppable. How are you?
It's great to be here. I'm excellent. Thanks. Really looking forward to this.
So you are originally from Australia. Today we're sitting in Mexico City. I'm in Toronto. We are truly a global community. I love it.
The beautiful thing about technology.
You said something that I want, before I take you back to your childhood and all that great stuff, and I got hairs on my lips. You said something on your site, and I want to challenge it just for a moment. When people thrive, the more good they do. When people thrive, the more good they do. And, you know, I think that we've seen it time and again, that those who are wealthy, those who are less fortunate, those who are less fortunate tend to give more than those who have a lot of wealth. And I'm sure that you see it in the countries that you visit in South America, other poor nations, where those that really have nothing will give you everything.
Yeah, it's a really great point, and I think the way of that I see thriving is, and I'm sure we'll go through it at a deeper level as we go, but it's about these three different levels of impact that I've realized that we as human beings are making, whether that's in a positive or a negative fashion, whenever we're living our lives. We're making an impact in our own lives, we're making an impact in others' lives, and we're having an impact on the planet as well. What I see is, there are wealthy people that do take advantage of other people, but there are also wealthy people that do amazing work and do just phenomenal things in the world. And I think it comes down to, well, why is it that they are doing the things in the first place? Is it to fill a void for something they believe they don't have internally, and so they're replacing something, and so they're taking from the world? Or is it that they already feel filled up, and so therefore as they thrive, which is my definition of thriving, is as they thrive, then they are going to do more good because they're already full and whole and complete internally, allowing them to give that, and all of a sudden the things that they're doing are an enhancement of who they already know that they are, rather than, again, taking things from the planet, taking things from other people, taking advantage of other people and other examples of the planet in order to feel good enough. And we see this in people anywhere from people that don't feel good enough and aren't feeling good enough internally, who don't have anything, can be doing that, as well as people who are wealthy. So I don't think it's about wealthy or unwealthy. It's about, right, why is it that you're thriving in the first place? Is it at the expense of others, or is it as an enhancement of others?
Like it. Okay. So the definition of thriving for you?
To me, it's about making a greater impact at the end of the day, and making an impact on all three levels. Are we making an impact in our own lives, each other's lives, and at a planet level as well? Something that I realized, and I've realized it a lot through the travels, especially these last 12 months with the Impact Diaries, has been that somebody can be succeeding in their business and their life and supporting their communities and their the local area, but if that success is at the detriment to the well-being of the planet, then all their success is doing is speeding up the rate at which we're negatively impacting our environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a huge realization for me, and it's not how I've lived my life, for forever, because since becoming aware of it, it's definitely changed a lot of things for me. I think that's really what it's about. It's about how are you making an impact, and is the impact that you're making actually moving us forward as from a humanity point of view, but also a planetary standpoint. We're in a position right now as a human race where if we don't make some dramatic changes to the way that we're living, we're going to kill the very thing that's keeping us alive, which is the planet. I think we've got to realize that's what's keeping us alive. And I think we've got this amazing opportunity to evolve, to create these amazing inventions and innovations in this world that will hopefully allow us to explore the galaxy, right? But at the end of the day, if we're not looking after the only home that we've actually ever known now more than ever, then we're in some serious trouble, and we're not going to have that opportunity to evolve past the stage that we're at right now.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it scares me to think that, my generation and the one that just, behind me, are the ones that are leaving this legacy for our children. And it boggles my mind that money, oil, gas, all of that stuff is more important than the planet, leaving this planet and those that live on it and inhabit it, from wildlife to human beings, that we're not as important as money and greed. It boggles the mind. It truly does. This is, like you said, the only place we're going to live. We're not going to live on Mars. We're not going to live on the moon. This is it. So we got to look after it.
For now, anyway. I mean, I really hope that we can have civilizations externally to the planet. Well,
that'd be great, but it's not going to happen.
Again, exactly. It's got to be for the right reasons. It's not just leaving Earth because we've screwed that up and then we go on to screw up another planet. Like that's where we could go. Right?
And even the idea of greed. I mean, you're traveling in the South Americas. You're traveling to places where blue gold exists, when people are gobbling that up so that they can hold those resources over others, because without water, we've got nothing, and that boggles my mind. Like, that's like, oh my gosh, like, how can you be so greedy that you're going to, be the water barons of the future and hold it against everybody else? Like, that is not thriving. That is not doing things for the good of humanity.
Yeah, and I think that it comes back to the point of if you're needing to overpower people, if you're needing to extract resources for the purpose of overpowering others, and like you mentioned about from a greed standpoint, then it's not going to lead to a bright future. On the other hand, the beautiful thing is when we take care of self first and foremost, and then build upon that. Money is simply a magnifier. Technology is simply a magnifier. It magnifies who we are, internally, and so if that being the case, we can turn. I'm a massive optimist around this, because I see that not only can we destroy the planet faster than we've ever been able to before, but we can also save it, protect it, evolve, and create just an amazing future for ourselves.
That's the best news. That's the very best news you could tell me today. I like that.
I believe it fully, because we've got, just look at the technological advances that are coming out now. The ability to tell stories, the ability to uncover the things that are going on. People, I mean, for me, inherently, I think people are good. It's that their behavioral patterns are what dictates behaviors that may be out of alignment with that. And if we can solve that, then we can solve the challenges that we're experiencing from things like bullying and depression and anxiety and narcissism and other areas of overpowering, and live more in alignment with the planet. I think at the end of the day, we're just out of alignment as a species. We're out of alignment with the planet. That's, the beautiful thing I think about nature is it shows us, right? Yeah. It shows us, hey, we're off track. Yeah. And I'd say this to clients often, like from a personal point of view, that often your biggest breakthroughs come directly after your biggest breakdowns.
True.
And I'll
Well,
they
change
go, oh yeah,
happens
it's
best
true.
in
It's true.
chaos, right? It does. I mean,
Yeah.
when things are
But
chaotic, change has to
yeah.
happen, and it
But here's the
forces
thing.
you. It forces you.
Yeah. Here's the thing though with that is the reason that that occurs is because you're not listening along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you would have said this before. I've said this before. Almost everybody tuning into this would have heard this before. Hindsight is a beautiful thing.
It's 2020.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
looking back, and it's not like those signposts magically appeared.
Yeah.
It's that now you're able to see them. The thing about the planet is that we haven't got the luxury of going through a massive breakdown. Massive breakdown equals extinction of our species.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And
I
so
mean,
we've got to
Sargard
become-
said, to paraphrase them, you can't live your life backwards. You have to go forward. So yeah, we have to take those lessons from back here and go, extrapolate them.
Totally. And the thing is, you'll still look back and think, that was that thing that was coming together, and I didn't really know. But the key here is again understanding yourself, understanding why it is that you're doing what you're doing, making conscious decisions that are good for you, good for others, good for the planet as well, to give us the best chance of evolving in a way that's going to allow us to thrive as a species on this planet, rather than being out of alignment. Just as from a human behavioral point of view, if you're out of alignment, you can tweak the process to get yourself back in alignment. I remember I was out in Idlewild, California recently, and I got off track a little bit. And I noticed myself getting off track because the trail didn't quite look like it was a trail anymore. And I looked back across and then saw that I had kept going when I was meant to actually turn around. And it was a big insight for me. I thought, this is what happens in life, is that people get off track on a trail and they're not conscious about that. And therefore they're just going about their life, experiencing what they're experiencing. And all of a sudden, 2 years later, 5 years later, they go, how the hell did I get here? What happened?
Yeah.
What happened to my life?
As a coach, I say what happened to your life is that you didn't fully realize what your values were, and you became out of alignment with what you value. And so when they're conscious, when you really know what it is that you value, then you're happier and you're thriving. Yep. Right? And the planet's thriving.
And you're able to tweak, right? Because all of a sudden you don't need to go through all of those big breakdowns and massive messes. Sure, they'll happen from time to time because we're only human, right? But the less and less that can occur, the more you're able to tweak, which means that so much of your energy is in alignment with where it is that you're wanting to go.
Right.
And I think we take that from a planetary point of view as well, is understanding, right, are my actions in alignment with what I say is important to me?
Yeah.
Are my actions in alignment to what I say is important around the planet, not only myself, but also the planet? And if not, then what can I tweak right now? What could I tweak today that would allow me to live in more alignment with that and be an inspirational?
I have this conversation all the time with people, and in other words, walking your talk. But I have this conversation all the time because they say, "Oh, well, I do things. I help people." Do you? Like, have you ever donated money to a cause other than to children who are starving? Have you ever done that? No. Have you ever picked up jeans for teens, or what have you done? Well, I watched the shows and I heard people, and I'm like, that's great. But we're not here to, to put people down. We're here to raise people up. And so I just want to say, first of all, Introducer Magazine, this is Cameron Brown. They said that you are one of the 10 game changers to know. That's exciting. I mean, you're in your 30s. You're only in your 30s. You're half my age. And you know what? I think that's really exciting that you are who you are. So let's go back to the outback. Let's go to the land down under and find out what made you like this. How did you become this change maker? What were your parents? What were they like?
I mean, they're great. I love them to bits. And but going back there, I didn't. I played music for a long period of time. I've been writing music for many years now, and started learning when I was about 8 years of age. But I didn't really have the inkling to make an impact, to want to make a difference. As time went on and as I went through school, I wanted to make something of myself. I wanted to be successful. There was nothing about the planet in there. and being from a farm, I mean, I ate meat every single day, which now coming to now eat a completely plant-based diet, partly from a planetary point of view and also for a health and cruelty-free standpoint. But a lot of it came later. I think my younger years and even going into teenage and into 20s as well was very much about finding myself.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time was feeling like I didn't belong anywhere. I would go through and do the things that I needed to do, but there was still a sense of not really belonging or not really feeling worth it.
A musician? Did you think you'd be a rock star? Like, is that where you were heading, or what did you think?
It's interesting when I left home and went to the big smoke, 9 hours away to the first major city closest to where we were. I started university, but deep down, I wanted to be able to, make music as a career for me. It wasn't until I remember doing a gig it was actually back home where I was from. And I remember at the end of the night, it was like a 4-hour gig, right? I started off with lighter music and some of the stuff that I'd written. And then by the end of it, everybody's absolutely, wasted and they're having a good time. That's totally cool. But I remember thinking to myself as like towards the end of it, thinking, this isn't the best place for people to really capture the music and feel it, and they're not going to come up to me after the gig and say, man, you changed my life, I just heard the lyrics in that song and it just sounded absolutely amazing, I'm going to do something different. It's just not, it wasn't.
And it's funny because as a songwriter, like the angst that you pour into those lyrics, you're going, no, not the right word.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say?
Totally.
It's like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and so I looked at, well, if that's not the platform, I really did start searching around for, like, what is it? How am I going to, because by then I did want to make a difference with my music. I'd gone through some personal development of my own, learned a lot about myself, and it was very much about how can I be successful for one? How can I make a difference? How can I use the music that I'm creating to do that? Online became a big portal for that. The songs that I'd written have reached millions of people, millions of views around the world now, in 195 different countries, and I'm extremely appreciative for technology and its ability to magnify the message that you're creating, it went on from there. I remember when I started my first coaching course. I remember thinking, not only like, this is it, this is what I've been looking for to be able to create some change, but this is it for what was missing in terms of being able to make a difference with music. I did feel like something was missing there in being able to convey the message that I was wanting to bring across. And then, as time's gone on, a number of years later, now, being able to have a grand piano on stage in the keynotes that I deliver, talking about the topics that are near and dear to my heart around emotional intelligence and the sustainability and relationships and creativity and things like that, and then being able to bring in the piano component to it, the music component, it's been incredible to see, and I feel extremely blessed to have allowed that to come into existence. And
I love that.
I guess it's been amazing.
You've got half of the show that I want to do. So I've had this idea for a lot of years. It was called the Unstoppable Tour, for lack of a better name.
Yeah.
But really, it was taking theater and music and voice and coaching and inspiration and skits and all of that and humor into a show, into a theatrical show where people would walk away thinking they're feeling more positive, they're feeling like they can do something and make a difference. And I think that's so brilliant. I think it's, it has to happen sooner or later. Let me ask you something. Coming from, sorry, I just have this hair keeps hitting my mouth. Coming from
I have that problem.
Yeah.
That's the thing about starting to get older. I can't see it here, but I'm going
come off. Yeah.
on the top.
That was your first thing, was it? That was your first when you shaved your head for charity. That was the first event for you.
I think it was. Yeah, it was a and it wasn't really. I didn't expect to grow my hair for 2 entire years. And for those tuning in, you can go and check out on the website the about page of mine, and you'll see the afro there.
Thriving Collective.
Because that's my hair is very curly and it grows, and brushing it out. And so I had this massive afro by the end of it. But here's the thing: I was just growing it, and then I was going to shave it and raise money for cancer research. In Australia, they have Shave for a Cure. And it just so happened that by the time I decided, well, I want to actually do something to make a difference around this, it's done, I think it's in February each year, February or March. And it was a month or two after that. So I thought, all right, well, I'll just grow it for another year, and then we'll shave it off the next year. So I didn't have a haircut for the entire year, and it was massive by the end of it. But yeah, it was wanting to make a difference. I think again, a part of it was still wanting to feel like I'm contributing something to greater than just myself. I think that's been the journey that I've been on to get to a stage of being of service to our planet, of service to other people, rather than just trying to serve myself. But yeah, it was a pretty cool experience, that's for sure.
Well, let me ask you this, because I grew up on a farm and I loved it, but growing up in the middle of nowhere on this farm, and you can't wait to get away because there's like nothing happening, right? But now you're planting things, and I think that, don't you think that maybe growing up gave you a real appreciation for how hard work it is to feed a nation, to plant food, to sustain cattle, whatever it is? Farming is like one of the hardest jobs there is, with the least amount of gratitude and money, really. And yet here you are, the farmer's son who got away, planting trees, making a difference. I mean, do you think that somewhere in your DNA, it's still there, like wanting to grow things?
I mean, I think, and I think Mum and Dad would vouch for this, that my work ethic has definitely stemmed from my father. He works very, very hard. And yeah, when it comes to farming, there are a lot of unpredictable factors, and it's something that isn't for me. But it's funny you actually mentioned this, because I do see the way in which the company is growing, and yeah, the areas specifically around the planet, but also other areas as well. It's a similar thing, but a totally different thing. It's first out you're planting seeds of inspiration, and hopefully that as time goes on, with the right kind of nutrients, and they grow into something that becomes extraordinary. I see it as just a different form of farming in that it's more from a mind point of view, and then hopefully that turns into actions with people. But I think growing up back there, there's a massive appreciation for one, for technology, because one moment I remember music in school. So I did singing lessons in grade 12. My final year, I had singing lessons through the phone, because there wasn't anybody in town that could give those lessons. And so that's just to me, that's just like, I look back at it, I didn't think of anything else at the time, because it was just what it was, right?
Yeah.
We didn't have internet at the stage that would allow you to stream by video. So, he'd hear me over this rough phone, call and say, to change this and change that. And I only had one lesson with him in the city that I went to after grade 12. But during school, I went during one of the school holidays and had a lesson at his house. But that was the only lesson that I had for the entire year in person. And so there's a mass appreciation for looking now for technology and how it can, when used purposefully, and this is really important, when used purposefully, can connect people in a way that technology alone, that non-technology, and the way that we've done it before, it just simply can't compete. It's the same with me now, like of being able to connect with these amazing people all around the world and have these experiences. It's a huge part of that has come about because of the relationships that I built through digital platforms like social media.
Right.
It's incredible. And I think the other part is, we were out on the farm. I still went and did football and tennis and cricket and things like that. So there was still a social aspect, but there was a lot of the time where, yeah, I mean, with my brother and sister, but apart from that, it was, we were alone. In terms of people my age around the area, most of them were a bit younger. And so, yeah, there was the element of making your own fun, and being okay from an independence point of view. I think part of it is a natural behavioral style of mine is the independence component, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if a part of it came from being okay and learning to be okay with being on my own. I think I had to learn to deal with that, and that there were the own challenges around that, because there were a period of time within my teenage years where I didn't want to be here anymore. Mm-hmm. I wanted my life to end, and that's where it came from. So in terms of overcoming that,
whoa. Let's go back. You wanted your life to end in your teen years. You wanted to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
What happened?
I look back at that time, and I think there are a few key factors. One that I've only really uncovered over the past year, actually. So first up, it was absolute feelings of not being good enough, feelings of not belonging anywhere, feeling like I didn't have a place in this world worthy of myself. And even though there were some friends, I didn't feel like there was that closeness there. And so I was fighting against my own battles. The big one that I had the realization of was that when I think it was about grade 8, it was when I gave up music. There was a person in school, and it was just a fleeting thing that happened looking back on it, but it was something that completely changed how I was approaching life. And that was, it mentioned something that made me feel that it wasn't cool to learn the music that I was learning. And it was my perception about that situation that then I chose to give up music, and I stopped. I gave up lessons. I said I didn't want to do it anymore. And part of that was, the theory side of things. I just didn't like doing that anyway. I preferred to play by ear. But a big part of that absolutely was that interaction. And so I decided that I wouldn't play, and I stopped playing for 2 entire years. I remember coming back after a couple of years, walking past the piano one day down at home, and just looking at it and thinking, I'll have another go. And I started playing again, started playing purely by ear, started writing my own music then. And I started learning and overcoming the challenges that I was being exposed to through the lyrics that I was writing. And I look back at the most challenging time, and this is the first time that I'd actually synced those up. It's the most challenging years of my life. Those 2 years of life was the same time that I gave up the piano. Mm-hmm. And it was a massive realization for me to realize that, it's when I was trying to fit into somebody else's definition of what cool is, trying to fit into someone else's definition of what success looked like, that I lost myself in the process.
Yeah.
And it was through losing myself that, there was the feelings of feeling absolutely worthless, of feeling like I didn't belong, of feeling like I didn't deserve to be here, because I didn't feel like I fitted into this place. There wasn't a sense of purpose. There wasn't a sense of meaning. There was none of that. And so, quite rightly.
Somebody else's value system, right? Somebody else's value system.
Totally.
Not
And
going up with your own. Not being, yeah. And which is so totally, teenage, adolescence. I mean, we all want to fit in adolescence so badly. And
this is why I'm a big believer, and I believe it's almost criminal, that emotional intelligence isn't a compulsory subject in schools.
Yeah.
When we look
compassion.
And compassion, like whatever you want to call it, the inclusion of life skills, empathy, compassion, knowing why you do what you do, knowing and understanding that the thoughts that are flowing through you aren't actually you, but they're actually flowing through, and the emotions and all of these pieces, understanding these patterns of behavior. This is the stuff that I learned in my 20s.
Yeah.
The reason why I believe it's even more important than ever right now is that technology is increasing at a rapid rate. Mm-hmm. And we're just starting. There's been a recent study that came out that showed that the increase of depression, of the suicide, of anxiety in younger kids. To me, it makes perfect sense, because you think about it. as there's a framework that I created called the impact loop. You imagine on this side is your internal self, and on this side is your external environment. Internal is your values, your beliefs, stuff that we've been talking about so far, thoughts, emotions, fears, along with your unique talents and strengths. Then on this side is everything that's external to you: technology, social media, relationships, this conversation, everything outside, companies, governments, communities, the environment at a whole, everything outside. And when we come into contact with something from the external environment, we create something new out of that. And that something new is making an impact on these three different levels that we talked about before, one way or another. And the thing with technology is that it's speeding up at an even more rapid rate. And we can't even begin to imagine how fast it's going to become.
Yeah.
We can't expect to keep up with that, but we can learn how to adapt to change.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, what's happening it's happening a lot with millennials and a lot with younger generations as well, but I see it happening externally as well at a later age as well, is the external validation required to know that you're good enough. And this comes in the form of likes, in the form of comments, but it also comes in the form of like keeping up with the Joneses, for example. Oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. Social media is just a new level of that. It's a magnification of that. Technology isn't the problem here. It's pointing to it. Mm-hmm. It's pointing to the problem that we don't understand ourselves well enough, and therefore we need external things to fill the voids that we believe, things that we believe we don't have. Right? I would have done the same thing. Thing would have happened back when I was a child. If social media was a big thing back then, I would have been using social media and then comparing myself to other people, thinking, see, I'm not as good as that person. See, they've got it all together. We're comparing ourselves to other people's highlight reels. And it's a real danger in that, because we don't see what's really going on. We have to learn how to become whole and complete internally first and foremost, so that then these external things can enhance that, can magnify that version of ourselves to allow us. And this is why I believe that we can turn this around really quickly, but it's going to take some dramatic shifts in the way that we're approaching education, in the way that we're approaching our companies, in the way that we're approaching our own lives as well.
I interviewed somebody a while back that created an app for addiction, and in that app was gamification based on it, so that you get likes and you get scores and good for hugs and whatever it is that's in there that we need to validate our behavior and say, yeah, you did good today. I'm going to give you a pat on the back. It's like, we never had that when I was growing up. We didn't have that stuff, and that's okay. I mean, I think technology is amazing, and for people like me, Geminis, I mean, that's the best gift I could get. It's like I got 5 iPads, and I need it. I couldn't live without them. And even my dad, who's turning 95, or 96 this year, I can't remember. He loves it. I gave him a Google Home. He goes, yeah, I got it set up. It's all ready to go. They get it. And other people just can't get it. And those that can't get it really feeling left out. They feel like it's an overwhelm to even turn it on, or to be a part of this culture that gets it, because it is kind of a loss if you can't get it. You are at a loss.
With where it's going, I think the really important thing to drive home here is why are you using it?
Right.
And I even had this, so going into, at the end of last year, so it was a massive year, 2017. I was in 8 different countries across 3 continents, and reforestation projects and other sustainability projects, and animal sanctuaries, filming and speaking, and there's just all of this, a huge amount of stuff. I was exhausted at the end of last year. I can't do that again. And so I knew I had to up-level my own self. So you can see, for me to be able to make an impact at a planetary level, I knew I had to come back to self and go, right, what changes must I make here to ensure that I can do this on an ongoing basis? And now we're into this year, and there's been, every day for me now is yoga. I've not missed a day, and I won't miss a day for the year now, because it's become part of the identity that I have. While I'm here in Mexico City, we've got a pool upstairs. There's days a week of swimming. There's clean plant-based food versus any of the junk stuff that I was eating before. There's a huge amount of water. There's B supplements. There's green smoothies. There's all of those things. The other thing, from a technological point of view, I know this from my own self, and how I create is for something to be created, there needs to be space for it to be created into.
Yeah.
And from a technological point of view, that's another challenge that we're being exposed to, is that it's going to stifle creativity, because if we need to fill the void anytime we're experiencing silence because we don't feel comfortable in our own selves, comfortable with our own silence, then we'll fill that that's when the ideas come.
Yeah.
That's how all of my songs are written, right? They're written through me, and they're written in the times of giving myself the space to do it. The moment I try to write a song, I suck at it.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was about, for me now, 30 minutes before bed, there is no technology, and it's completely off unless there's a little bit of music. Everything else though is completely off, and I'm just being the gratitude for the day. There's no phone next to the bed at all, none. I have no notifications on this at all anymore. So I only get notified when I want to be notified, which is when I go into the apps, because it's disrupting the way that I'm wanting to live life. On the weekends, on the Sunday, I have at least 3 hours and I call it tech-free time. And that's 3 hours where I'm just sitting, thinking, or out there experiencing. There's no technology there at all. And I have that throughout the week where there is times where I don't have technology. But there's something about actually setting a time where you are technology free that just makes, I look forward to that time now on the Sunday where I just go, oh yeah, tech free time, awesome. And it's just a beautiful time for me to be with myself and to be alone. But, it's a massive challenge for people. I've seen, there was a study done recently, I think it was last year or the year before, the last few years anyway, and they put people into a room and they gave them different things that they could stimulate themselves with. One of the most extreme example was an electric shock that they could administer themselves with. And each person, every single one of them beforehand said, I would pay money not to, to ensure I don't get the electric shock. They went in there, and so it was 15 minutes that they had to be, to be alone with their own thoughts. A decent percentage of people administer themselves with at least one electric shock.
Jesus.
And it sounds crazy when we're just thinking about it, but again, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. Someone, a decent amount of the population would rather inflict pain on themselves than be with their own thoughts.
I get up at 4 a.m. because I need that time to sit alone. I don't let anyone put TV on. Like, I need to sit alone and just be. Don't talk to me. I might read, but just let me be. That's my creative time. If I'm writing or doing something, that's when it's going to happen in the wee hours of the morning, and it's so important to have that. And that's when I can breathe like that. I just love that time so much. It's so special.
So good. I think it's really important that you mentioned that, because, those tuning in, it's important that you find your rhythm. Don't be comparing yourself and going, well, that's okay for him because he doesn't have kids, or that's okay for her because she's a morning person, or you can always make up reasons for why you're not
absolutely
know that you should be doing in the first place. It's about going, this is my situation. This is my, what's going on for me right now. How can I build this in a way? I have a lot of clients that I work with from a coaching point of view around the world. There's one of my clients who does work out at lunchtime. Awesome, rock on. For me, I do it in the morning. Right. And for somebody else, they might do it in the evening. Work out what your rhythms are that can allow you to do it sustainably. And another big thing, find places and find the ability and learn and understand how to overcome the challenges you're experiencing internally to become your own best friend. You spend way too much time with yourself not to enjoy your own company.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even turn the radio on in the car, because that's when you drive, you're in a trance state, just like meditation. And so when you're in a trance state, you can download, universe is sending messages all the time. So I consciously turn the radio off now, even though I love music, I turn it off because I know when I hit that state, I'm going to create, something's going to come to me, something important.
I love that. When I used to drive from the place called Adelaide to where I grew up, it's about, like I said, about 8.5, 9 hours or so, I think, from memory. And I drive that back there with my dog, and it was a time where some of the best ideas I came up with. I swear, like if my dog could talk, she'd go like, "This dude's freaking crazy." I talk myself out loud because it was just an amazing time to do that. Straight road, flat road, nothing else going on around. One of the most boring stretches of road in the world, I think. But I loved it because it was
Okay,
the time.
I got to ask you this, because like this is like 2 years ago, you sold off your stuff, one of your crazy ideas, and said, I'm going out into the world and I'm going to make a difference. Did you have a plan? How did you get so far in 2 short years?
I believe that, and it's been, because I've been asked this a bit, and I reflect on it a lot. And because one of the questions that I had last year was similar with, how have you been able to achieve that amount in that shorter space of time? I think like one of the big parts of what we've talked about is becoming your own best friend. If you're your own best friend, the energy that you're expending is focused, and the thoughts that you have and the questions that you're asking are all dedicated to others, to the planet. Yes, there's some time for working on self to become that next level. That still happens, but the overwhelming majority of the time is towards that.
Yeah.
If you look at the amount of people that are experiencing mental health challenges around depression and anxiety, and those that go untold as well, are just the general stresses and the negative self-talk that wouldn't get prescribed as depression and anxiety, for example. The amount of energy that's going towards fighting an internal battle with somebody that you should actually be enjoying.
But there's a gazillion coaches out here. They're not where you're at. So specifically, you left home with nothing, pretty much. What was your first port?
the first one, so I left, so I got rid of everything at the end of 2016. So it's only been about 14 months or something like that. I didn't have any intention of getting rid of everything as this phase was going, but I think this is, and just thinking about it, I think this is a really important point, is this insatiable level of curiosity about where things are going to go, and also not needing to know exactly how they're going to go.
That's cool.
And there's beauty in that. I call it the curiosity principle. So many people are focused on needing to know how things are going to go. And I used to be that person, totally. Former relationship, I was like the rigidest, I was rigid, right? If anyone happens to be tuning in, that's a former relationship of mine, they'll vouch for that, I'm sure. And it was like, yes, he was. Oh, you wouldn't believe that, right? And so, I've learned, and for me, my personality is that there is the need to have certainty and the need to feel important. But I take care of that internally first. And this is again why my belief is you get everything met internally, because then everything externally just becomes an added bonus.
Yeah, but my friend, we're not answering this question.
Oh, please go. I apologize. What's the question?
No, it's because it's so important. It's so important to all of us listening in some way, that you took off without a plan, I think.
Yes.
No plan. Just happened.
Well, I'd say that there was a plan, because I knew that I wanted to make an impact, and the Thriving Collective was already the company. I was already coaching and speaking and training people.
Okay.
I've been doing that for a number of years. It was the next level of that. Some of the things that I wanted to do, I wanted to show, for me, it was about, because I'd had an experience on the plane coming back from LA in 2016, that there's just stuff sitting at my house just wasting away. Somebody else would be better off with it than I would. I learned that cars, for example, spend more than 90% of their time on average not being used. That's a massive waste of resources, right? And so that those pieces, and seeing a couple of documentaries as well, like they started to form. And the other part, it was kind of out of necessity as well, where I ended the July 2016 event tour that I did. And in that tour, I also recorded music in LA. I also had a full day photo shoot. We had video crews at different places as well. So it was intense. And that was in a very short space of time. I was exhausted at the end of that. And I went up to my family, my aunt and uncle's house, and got a little sick after that. And I go, all right, something's got to change. I thought, well, I still want to be able to travel. I still want to be able to make a difference. I still want to be able to play music. I wonder what I could do. And this is a really important thing. I wonder what I could do. And I wonder what I could create that would allow me to do that. And there was the insight came to me. I thought, I wonder if there's like a piano that could roll up in my suitcase. Yeah. Notice the wonder question. This comes back to the curiosity principle.
Right.
It's an insatiable level of curiosity. Right. I had no idea what I was going to create out of this. No idea. But I was curious to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious about what might get created out of this. And this idea, and I looked it up, and there's actually a thing that's been created like that. But it was a really poor quality piano, right? A keyboard that you could roll up. And I knew even the crappy keyboards that you can buy, like the ones that don't have the full weighted keys like the piano, it just doesn't feel right to me growing up on an actual piano. And so all right, I wonder what else I could do. And then I was walking, going for a walk one morning, and I wonder if there's like places that I could stay in that have a grand piano in them. And so I started looking, and I'm going, there are so many places around the world that have them. I mean, Mexico, right city, there's the Steinway piano, like right there, that I'm recording music on right now. It's amazing. That spawned into, if I'm going to go and stay in these places and maybe get rid of some of my stuff, I need to have, I'll have pianos, and I'll do this and I'll do that. And what do I do with my stuff? Maybe I'll get rid of it. But I still had no intention of getting rid of everything. Then as time went on, I go, well, Costa Rica is going to be the first place that I go to. All I wanted to do is go to do a sea turtle project there and help make an impact. But it wasn't even called the Impact Diaries back then. Yeah, it was called something else, like a thriving project, or something that I look back and cringe a little, because I go, well, that didn't really even make sense. Like it did, but it didn't. But I remember doing a video when I first left, and it was that I was going to, while traveling, capture the beautiful sights and sounds of the world while I travel the world. That was all I had. I had no intention. I didn't even own a drone at the time. And then, a few months later, and I created a video that went viral that was purely with a drone, right? And recorded music on a piano in Argentina after spending time in Colombia.
How cool would it be, like, to have a book, an art book or whatever, of all the pianos that you played in every country, or all the music that you wrote, at all the desks, or just that kind of thing? I mean, just to create money, right? To sell, or I'm on a mission right now because the African painted dog is about to go extinct. There's like less than 5,000 left in the world, and they could go in a day. It's really scary to think of these animals and different things around the world that can leave us so easily. We're so fragile right now, and so I'm always looking to tell people about it, because I want them to think about it and donate or do whatever they can to possibly save them. There's a project out there to save them. Anyway, that's another story. But the thing is, like, I always think of these things. Yeah, the pianos you played at in all these different cities and all these different 195 countries around the world. Like, that'd be I like to see those pianos. I like to see what they look like. I like to see the rooms. I like to see that'd be a cool book. Just something.
Yeah,
like
it's interesting. Because I have been, like, from a video point of view, it's been all around the world. There's played on about 6 or 7 different countries pianos in last year. It was just amazing, and creating, and that's where the online version of the Impact Diaries is. There's music, and there's films, and that a lot of that's been created on these different pianos around the world, which has been pretty cool.
So Colombia, Costa Rica, why these countries? Like, what is it that attracts you to them? The warm weather?
It's really interesting. I had known, if you had said in 2016 that I had been in the countries that I'd been in, Argentina, Colombia, Costa Rica was going to be one, because I'd kind of been planning that out. Yeah. But the others, Colombia, I had no intention of being there. Argentina had no intention of being there. Uruguay had no intention. So with that, there's been the curiosity. It's when I ended with the 3 months in Costa Rica, I went back to see my new niece and nephew for the very first time. They were just born in March 2017, and it just amazing to be able to go back and be there. While I was there, I was kind of working out, right, where am I going next? And Colombia came about. I was interested because Medellin specifically, I had read, because they had gone from this, Medellin specifically, like the murderous capital of the world, to somewhere that was named in 2013 as the most innovative city in the world. I thought that's a place that I want to find out about. And then as I then looked, I thought, wow, and there's all these amazing places and beautiful nature to go to as well. That's incredible.
And now you're going to go glamping in Colombia.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Colombia was an amazing experience because there's so much potential and so much potential for destruction at the same time. And I do hope to be back there around mid-year for a specific project to help with the sustainability there, because for a long time the war, the war internally, the civil war protected nature, and I think this is something isn't quite right when war is what keeps the environment safe and peace is what actually destroys it.
Yeah,
that's kind of what's going on right now. There's widespread peace in the region, which is amazingly beautiful, and that deserves to be there. But with that comes the ability to exploit the land in ways that weren't possible before, and exploiting they are. I saw trees being cut down in front of my eyes. I saw mining companies moving into pristine areas of rainforest. It's really scary to see, and I think this, like seeing that, is like seeing what other countries have done for many years.
I want to ask you something.
There's potential to change this.
The people that you're speaking to, is there an average age?
As in speaking engagements or speaking in general?
Yeah, engagements that come.
It ranges. I mean, there's companies that I speak at. That's probably the most common. Is organisations and helping them to create in a way that's in alignment.
So are they creating corporate responsibility programs? What are they creating, or just like looking at the way that they impact?
It depends on the talk I deliver. I mean, it can be around emotional intelligence. It can be around leadership. It can be around relationship development using social media, or it can be around a sustainability component.
Right.
So it really depends on the talk. But, I spoke to a room full of 700 kids last year as well. I did a talk to students at a university in Medellin in Colombia, and had somebody translating what I was saying as I was giving a talk. So right down to out in a place called El Prodigio, where they've recently discovered petroglyphs
cool.
in the region, and I was one of the first, I think, 15th or 16th in the world to see these. Amazing experience just from that point of view. But the guy who discovered them, amazing human being, runs a kids program for the kids in the region. And this is by the way, just an extremely beautiful place, but it was right on the border of the war going on, and so they got totally displaced, and so they're only just starting to make their way back there. But they're teaching them how to that there is an alternative to cutting down the trees, that there is an alternative to destroying the planet, and that's a bright future. So sustainable tourism there is what they're looking to develop. And so I gave us just a short talk there in this hall that used to be owned by one of the people that were the instigators of a lot of the destruction that was going on there from a war point of view, that got pulled off, taken away from him because of the war crimes that he committed. And here we were, talking about how to make an impact. And on the walls were these drawings that the kids had made of how it makes them feel to be doing something that's good, to then showing that you can purchase these products that they're making. It's just amazing to do. So yeah, I mean, it can range, like I said, from that to engagements coming up that have thousands of people around the world.
Let me just say that we're listening to the voice of Cameron Brown. If you're listening to the radio portion of this, and if you're viewing it, you get to see the beautiful Cameron Brown speaking on Mission Unstoppable on the Good Radio Network. Cameron, the average person that you talk to, let's say, when you say, you can make a difference in your life, you can make a difference in your life, and you can make a difference to the planet. And what's the response of most people? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to give. I don't know how I can impact. What kind of impact can I do? I'm just one person. Like, what do people say? And what's your response?
Yeah, it does vary. One of them definitely is the feeling of apathy. And I remember Jane Goodall once saying, and I paraphrase, but it's something like, the greatest threat to our future is apathy.
Yeah.
And I totally believe that. And so sometimes, yeah, people have just been beaten down again and again and again. They don't even have the ability to focus on a planet. It's about their own life. And if that's the case, then start small. I'm a big believer that just doing one thing, because the reason I believe this is because it's been my own life. Is I didn't just change everything overnight. It happened over time. There have been a number of different shifts that have happened over time. And so when you start with one thing, then that can hopefully, and it does, because I've seen it with clients as well, it can spawn into something else, because I feel like momentum builds on itself. Curiosity feeds on itself. It goes, well, I could do that. Well, I wonder what else I could do. I wonder what else I could experience. And so I think that's a big one. But at the end of the day, the reason we're in the position that we're in, like, we can blame companies, we can blame governments, we can blame other people and other situations all we like. At the end of the day, the reason why companies are profitable is because we continue to purchase the stuff that makes them profitable.
Right. That's right. That's it.
Right?
Easy.
Stop doing it. And a for-profit company, they're not going to continue making products that aren't profitable.
This is true.
Right? That's the whole thing of a for-profit company. They go, we've got to shift. And I love that things are starting to shift, because, with millennials, the percentage of people who would actually choose a product and actually pay a premium for something that's more meaningful and attached to their form of being, that's growing. And so companies are seeing that. So, the time is running out for companies.
But here's the other part that with millennials, is a very disposable society we've come to. When I was a kid, that TV set I had as a kid, and maybe your parents had one of those, is still working today.
Yeah.
The new ones, they're meant to only last 2 or 3 years, because they want you to buy something new. Back then, they didn't care as much for some reason if you bought a new one, right? And so landfills have massive components of all these things that are killing the planet, because this idea that we need to make money, so this thing has to break so that you'll come back and buy a new one. Like, this mindset has to go. It has to go. You have to come back to,
companies really do need to, companies really do need to wake up and make decisions that are not only good for their bottom line, but genuinely are good for the planet, good for humanity as well, but particularly the planet, because that again, that's what's keeping us alive. I think closed loop production is something that's going to be really important going forward, and companies, so that then even if people are maybe purchasing products that last a specific amount of time, they then get put back into and created into the next version of that, the next product. Because there's far too much being extracted out of the ground to only last a certain amount of time before it just ends up in a dump somewhere. We really must wake up around that, because there are so many reasons that I would love somebody. I continuously research different things that people are doing, but somebody should be inventing the ability for waste to be extracted down into the core minerals. Surely there's a way of doing that. That's a question that goes into my, I haven't got time to do that. I've got my focuses, but somebody, whoever's tuning in, surely there's a way that we can do that, where it can simply put, you put all of the waste through it, where it just extracts it out into the core things that we used in the first place to create the thing. So I think, and that's why I'm so excited again, because the technology that we're going to build over these next 10 years, and when the technology is created because we're committed to creating change, and that people aren't willing to purchase products and services that aren't in alignment with that. I just think that's a trend that's not going to go away. And we're becoming more and more conscious. And I think that's only going to lead to more innovation that can allow our species to ultimately thrive for many, many, many generations to come.
Well, we are running out of time, but I do want to ask you 2 more things. First of all, I want you to tell everybody how to get in touch with you.
Definitely. So best place, so thrivingcollective.com is the website, and anything on social is /Ask Cameron Brown, ASK Cameron Brown. That's the best thing to get in touch.
And number 2, you've been everywhere now, pretty much. Where will you live out your life, do you think? Or will you always travel, or do you think you'll call a place home for 5 years? Where is that going to be, do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the place I still feel most at home is on the farm with my family, and so I spend a decent amount of time there each year, and may even spend a little more time there because of just I love being back there and love being with my family and love being just a cool uncle.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so
Well, what about being
that's
a
really
cool
fun.
dad? Is that in the picture for you?
It's not at the moment. It's interesting. It's something that I moved complete. I was
You tell
totally
him,
for.
Mom.
I'm completely away from that at the moment. Maybe ask me in a few years and it may have changed, but at the moment, I think being a cool uncle and being a steward of the planet and being that, I feel like that, like the whole planet is me looking after that. So there's not the inkling to have that. Definitely not in the short term anyway. But who knows in the future?
Well, you know
But
what,
yeah.
Cameron? You know, if one of you can do what you're doing, just imagine what 100 of Camerons out there.
Do you think I should maybe start a breeding program there or
Yeah,
something?
like a clone. Yeah, let's just clone Cameron.
I
Clone
love
Cameron.
that.
There you go. There's the name of your new business. I love it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for being my guest today. You were amazing. I
It's
just love you, and I
absolute
think everybody
pleasure.
listening.
I've absolutely loved it, and I really hope that those tuning in that you just at least take one action, because that really can spawn us somewhere else. And if you're thinking like, how can I do it, or why am I going to be able to do it? It's like why not? Like why not you? You're a human being. You've got your own unique set of talents and strengths that nobody else has in the unique way that you have. Rock on, get on and do it, because life's short and you never know when that's going to end. So I really hope that you take what we've done today and actually do something with it, because that's the ultimate for me.
Me too. Thank you, Cameron.
Awesome.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, bye.
See you next week. Okay.